and welcome. Today we are looking at a very important subject, and we're looking at Ghana's microeconomy. Basically, the economy within the country. And we are looking from the pure water seller all the way to the plastic chair manufacturer, to the big farmer, to industries. And we're just trying to find out. I mean, admittedly, I don't know where you live, but I think I can almost say that, look, Doomsaw is gone. I mean, Doomsaw is a thing of the past. I don't wish it to come back. I hope I'm not speaking too soon, but for now, I think Doomsaw is fine. So there is the energy to produce. However, it comes at a cost. Now, before Doomsaw was solved, we all say, oh, even if it's expensive, we don't care, let it come in. But now it's coming, and it's coming at a real cost. Now, how are companies growing? How are they able to hire and sustain their workers, pay rise, benefits? What's happening on the ground? So today, I want us to talk the real economy rather than this indices and that indices. Forget it. What is happening once you walk to work, once you're paying the bills, when you're paying the taxes? What's happening on the ground? And I've got some fantastic people that we are going to talk about to look at Ghana's microeconomy. My name is Nana Ansakwa. This is PM Express, and when I come back, we are talking the economy. Well, thank you very much for staying, and we're looking at Ghana's microeconomy. Now, it's one strange one because, you know, we have the government or the finance ministry saying, listen, we put some plans in place and this is the best there is. Things are good, things are looking good. But then, you know, you look at industry and industry say, no, things are not that good, we are struggling. However, there was a survey, you know, that focused on current performance of businesses and the expectations for the next quarter, which is this one, and to give the regional analysis and enhance value of the AGI Business Barometer Survey. The fourth quarter report included, and the survey was of a total of 507 businesses from the manufacturing, services, and construction sectors across the country, which were interviewed. Now, the report indicates that 24% of business executives said their current performance was better than that of the third quarter, which was the third quarter of last year. 45% said their performance was the same, while 31% said their performance was worse. On their expectation, 58% said they expected improvement in the first quarter of 2016, and 35% said they expected business situation to remain the same, while 7% expected business condition to worsen. So these things are all over the place. But what's happening on the ground? Now with me is my long-lost brother, Edward Carriway, Deputy General Secretary of the Ghana Agricultural Workers Union. My brother, you're welcome.
Thank you, Nana.
You can run, but you can't hide.
I can't hide.
What is happening on the ground? I don't want the numbers and the indices and this, but I mean, in reality, what's there?
Well, in reality, the things appear to be hard for a large proportion of the Ghanaian population. Sometimes we just make sweeping statements that it is bad for Ghanaians. But let's also admit that there are a number of Ghanaians who are not necessarily feeling
doing fabulously well.
Yeah, they are doing well, and they don't know what is happening on the ground. But generally, things are hard for Ghanaians. And on the ground, you hear about people not having jobs. You know, and the most critical thing is that when people have no jobs, certainly life has to be very difficult for them. And that is the general situation in the Ghanaian economy, where high, unemployment is very high. The youth have no jobs. Even those who have got jobs have jobs that are paid less, and they are unable to make a living. So generally, life is hard for the majority of Ghanaians.
So when we hear that, you know, the economy is getting better, where? I mean, how many people are affected, or how many people see this getting better economy?
Well, let me say that...
I don't want to be too skeptical, but I'm just trying to find, you know, where that growth is coming from and who's feeling it.
You see, you need to have growth. Then after having the growth, then you then have the benefits of it. It's not that when you have growth today, you will necessarily have the benefits of it. In fact, the economy can be growing, yet the majority of the people will still lose out. Now, so what we are experiencing in our economy today is we are experiencing phenomenal growth, but that phenomenal growth will have to now translate into benefits to the people, and that will take some time. That is, granted, all other things being equal, it will translate into benefits for the people. Now, the next stage is to ensure that the growth, the benefits from the growth are distributed. You see, growth by itself will not necessarily inure to the benefit of the majority of the people unless there are deliberate policies to distribute the income that has been generated in the country. The growth must be distributed to the people who actually need it, so that we can have a little equity, we can have a little balancing of the growth and then the benefits, and then for everybody to have a share of it. At what proportions, that one will be left to the distribution mechanism. So that is where we now need strong state institutions. We now need strong government to be able to ensure that the growth actually benefits everybody, and then particularly the vulnerable in society.
Now, you are in that sector. Now, one reason which the Importers Association were complaining about was levies, which were charged them and put into EDIF. Now, EDIF is an account where normally would have been able to access by people in agriculture, in manufacturers, everything. Now, they are saying that even if they put that money in here, it doesn't go to that manufacturing. And the reason why I'm saying that is that we need to sort of boost manufacturing, to stop imports, to stabilize our CD, and all this is not happening, and this all falls within, you know, your sector, your unions.
Well, I think, you see, it also have to look at it has to do with the whole economic direction. We have liberalized the economy to the sense that there's little control over what direction of the economy that we want it to go. In fact, the economy grows at different areas based on individual whims and caprices. Investors they choose and pick when they should go invest and so on. Now, in that regard, you see that very difficult areas like manufacturing, which take a long time to realize benefits and revenue. The gestation period is long. People will shy away from that, but rather will concentrate on areas that will bring immediate benefits and so on. So that is what people are doing. And if you look at EDIF, certainly EDIF was first not encompassing agriculture, but it has now been expanded to encompass agriculture. EDIF alone may not, as it stands now, be able to fill the void, the vacuum, the gap, the big need that business people need. But then certainly it is targeting a certain class, a certain proportion of the business community, and we only need to grow it because it is still young to be able to actually provide all the needs and the capital that businesses need to have to be able to do well. So I would not fault EDIF for now because it's so much expected of it when we don't sell, I mean, much more than what it can do for now. But we need to keep it and grow it so that over a period, it can actually play the role that it needs to play satisfactorily.
How are your members going to survive? Because all inputs are being taxed, and they are, being taxed to the brim. How are they surviving? Fuel, energy, everything. All inputs needed to produce anything is being taxed.
You see, we have over the period been made to structure or restructure this economy in such a way that we have little to depend on. Government, major areas of revenue has been taken away from government. Now government has to now rely on consumption areas, taxes like VAT, like all the things that we consume.
Major areas of revenue has been taken away.
For instance, if we take the gold mines, they are no more owned by this country. I mean, all of them are owned by foreigners, and they make huge monies, but you only depend on the profits that they declare. And then apart from that, you also realize that most of these big companies have their imports exempt for the purpose of producing what they do here. All those things are exempt. What it also means is that our tax revenue, import revenue, will come down because we are no more able to get revenue from there. Now, at the end of the day, if you look at it from one company to other and you put the aggregate, it constitutes huge loss of revenue to the state. Now, with the state with little revenue, we'll have to find revenue from somewhere to be able to meet the growing social and economic needs of the people, which is occasioned by population and by the demographic growth of our people. Now, so government would then have to now rely on consumption taxes like VAT and anything that people just consume so that to be able to generate that revenue to fill in that gap. So it's about the over 30 years of economic policies that have led us to this point where areas that are high revenue areas, which could have been in the hands of the state to generate that revenue, have all been taken over by through privatization, liquidation, or whatever of state-owned enterprises. And then we are just left with institutions that by nature are not even meant to generate revenue. So if they accidentally generate revenue, then of course, it's only a plus. But most of the state institutions today are few, and yet they are not even supposed to generate revenue because of the area of their operation. And I can cite example. For instance, if we take Ghana Commercial Bank, it was been sold years back. And Ghana Commercial Bank is a huge bank in this country. It is everywhere in the country. It allows government to pay and do transactions through Ghana Commercial Bank to any part of the country because they are located everywhere. This bank was almost sold out. Then, of course, we managed to stop it. Ghana Airways is gone. So today, many Ghanaians will travel, many airlines will come into our country. We are building airports, we are modernizing, and we are doing that. What for? They only pay the minimum tax for operating within the country. But the revenue that they generate, which would have hitherto stayed in this country, is now taken out because they are not Ghanaian-owned airlines. And we don't have a national carrier. We don't share in the bigger benefit that accrue to us through our own modernization and then strategically placing our country to allow more flights into the country and so on. So you can see that, yes, Ghana seems to be getting better because there are now more flights and so on. But the benefits are just small that accrue to us because all of them are foreign companies that are operating and they repatriate their revenue.
Can we tax our way out of trouble?
Come again.
Can we tax our way? Because, I mean, they keep saying that there's about a 30% bracket who sort of fall within the formal taxable group, and they seem to be the same people being taxed. I mean, can we tax our way out of trouble? Or as one John Awuni said, that look, it's right policies and not necessarily high taxes that will balance the economy.
Well, because taxes themselves also have their limits. You can't tax people beyond a certain limit. And you must also be seeking to widen the net rather than concentrating on the few that are there. But what, if you look at it, we as a country have deliberately come out with policies that constrain our own taxable areas. For instance, there are too many exemptions in this country. Exemptions in the sense that, apart from import exemptions that we give out, even revenue that is generated within the country, we have agreed not to tax a certain revenues. We allow repatriation in order to induce foreign investors, you know, because we want them to come in, because we had gone out to look for foreign investors. We are saying, look, we would not tax so much of your revenue. And then we have these assumptions which say, for instance, from year 1 to year 5, we are not going to tax you. And then they also apply tax avoidance and make sure that by the 4th year, they sell it out to somebody else. And then that company starts afresh. And then it takes another 4 years, they also sell it out. So for 10 years, 15 years, the same company operating, but simply just changing hands, we are unable to tax them. But it's also because we had, as a way of enticing them to come into our country, said that please, you come, we are going to give you so much tax exemption and so on.
Edward, with what is confronting us now, how do we realize the Ghana that we dream of?
Well, we just need to agree that we do not do enough in the past. That's one thing. Then 2, we are committed to now do the right thing. And then 3, we actually do it. That is what I think can do the trick.
At the moment, we have no gold, we have depleted our forest, we have sold out our oil. Indeed, we are still even selling the oil. I mean, apart from, forget about the first one, we are still in a hurry to, sell off the oil. Bauxite, we've sold out. Manufacturing, I mean, how do you even, I think you have to give them awards, those who manufacture in this country, because how do you compete with anything? Because by the time you manufacture with the current rate of electricity, anybody can bring the same item from any part of the world and get here, pay all the taxes, including the shipping fee, and still work out cheaper than yours. So with all this confronting us, we also want a Ghana where every child goes to school properly, fed a meal a day, every patient has a hospital bed. How do we get there, starting from where we are starting from?
Well, we just have no choice than to do something about our present situation. Sometimes think that the unfortunate is that we don't still realize that we have reached a point where we need to do something. But if we don't have that realization, they certainly will not do something. If you look at one, there are still areas that we can gradually work back. For instance, we still make consumption. Now, what is our deliberate policy for the manufacturing sector? What do we think that we want to do? If you look at the ECOWAS market itself, it's expanding, and then expanding in the sense that apart from the population-wise and then the income means of expansion, the access to the market is getting easier and easier day in, day out because of the ECOWAS protocols and so on. That allows for free movement of goods and services, and then also harmonizing taxes and so on. Are we strategizing to take advantage of this market? We are not, because we need to be building the infrastructure, we need to be building the factories, we need to be building what we think we have comparative advantage in, or we need to be looking at what the market needs. And the market we need for a decade, the market we need for 2 decades. Even if we don't seem to have comparative advantage now, but we can look at it and strategically position ourselves to be able to service that market. Are we doing that? Yet, we are at the forefront of ECOWAS sub-region, making sure that everything works on well. But when eventually the market is created, where are we? And you can see that today, we are now importing tomato from Burkina Faso, importing mangoes from Burkina Faso. And to the extent that they are simply running eggs. When in the actual fact, we should have been doing that to Burkina Faso, because we are complaining about the weather, but the weather is even still more favorable for Ghana than Burkina Faso. It just means that we are not positioning ourselves well. If you look at all this hula baloo around the cattle industry, Fulanis, and we don't have any cattle or meat factory in this country. Where do you think that will be the best location to place a meat factory? Years back, we had already come to that realization, and they placed it in Bolgatanga. We have left it. Now people have to physically carry a whole cow to this place to sell. Look at how bulky it is. When that cow can be, slaughtered, processed, and then put in a box and it will get here. We just do not do that. We don't have efficient transport system. We don't have trains, and we don't appear to think that it is important for us. How many articulators can carry things from here to the north and from north to this place? Not to talk about the accident rates that will occur. I mean, we are simply sitting back and hoping for what?
Have I got Sydney? Joining us on the phone is Sydney Casely-Hayford, who's an economist and also a financial analyst, financial policy analyst. Sydney, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Nana.
Sydney, we're doing a bit of street economics today, and we're focusing on the microeconomics, so what's happening inland. And we're trying to save myself and my viewers all the technical indices, this and indic factors that. No. We want, when you wake up in the morning, what's happening? Somebody who owns a factory probably employs 20, 25 people. Fuel has gone up. Water has gone up. Electricity has gone up. Taxes have gone up. How does such a person survive, let alone expand?
It's a very simple thing, and yet it might sound oversimplified. But the bottom line is, if you don't have people to buy what you're producing, in other words, if you don't have a market that enables you to sell into that market, then everything you are producing and bringing to the point of purchase is a waste of time. You can grow as many tomatoes as you want. You can get the road distribution worked out and mapped out as best as you can. But if people can't afford to buy what it is you're bringing to the marketplace, you will not get a sale. And it is as simple as that. So for the micro and small enterprise, the problem is, do they have a product that is priced adequately such that anybody who goes to the marketplace can afford to buy their product and buy sufficient enough quantity for them to be able to make a profit?
Sydney,
At the end of the day, that is the bottom line.
Sydney, unless you're producing, maybe type O blood or type B blood where you have a monopoly on it, I mean, how do you compete at this rate? Because I could bring the same product from pretty much anywhere in the world, and it will be tough to compete with me, I mean, with the current electricity rate and water rate. I mean, how do they compete, or how do they intend to compete?
If you bring tomatoes from Italy or Switzerland or Kyrgyzstan or wherever, if you can land them here in the marketplace at less cost than what the farmer is producing his farm in Ghana, that is one solution, because people will go for the less pricey product because that's all they can afford. But even before they buy the product, they must have the purchasing power to be able to buy the product. So if people's incomes are not going up, if people are not generating sufficient enough money on a day-to-day basis, there is nothing you can do that will enable the small business to grow, because he's not going to make the sales, and he cannot make the profit, and he will not be able to pay the employees. There is nothing more simpler than that. It's not complicated at all.
I started the show by saying that, listen, I think Doomsaw was over, but then I got a message that says, good evening, and a point of correction, please, Doomsaw still exists. I wish you were here in Nkoranza North District and see things for yourself and the general public at large. It says, I stand to be corrected. Now, so I think some areas have got Doomsaw, but I think generally, Doomsaw, it's much, much better than it is. But it has come at a price.
It has come at a price, and it is too expensive now. And the cost of production is way too high. So you are still competing with those who are flying goods in and clearing them at the ports through either proper legal means or through some illegal means. So they are landing those products at the market center much cheaper than you are producing here locally because your cost of production is way too high.
So
but that is not the problem. Mm-hmm. Even if the cost of production is high and people have the money, they will buy. They will come to a point where they will say, okay, so I have to adjust my standard of living and accept that this is the cost that I'm going to have to pay for a bowl of tomatoes. But instead of buying 2 or 3, I'm going to have to buy just 1, but they will still afford it.
So haven't our sins come, to bite us? Maybe we've enjoyed all this, free that for far so long. I mean, there's no more free to enjoy, and that's how come, we are where we are today. And I'm saying that if you were the finance minister, number one, we are not producing anything. Number two, we don't own our natural resources. Whatever we have, we don't add value to it. So we have no alternative than to import. And yet still we are saying that stabilize the cedi while we are importing. I mean, what does he do?
He is caught between a rock and a hard place. Unfortunately, the finance minister's strategy is to borrow his way out of his problem. And he's just compounding it because he's just piling up more debt. But we have had this discussion several times over. This question you're asking is very simple and fundamental. My product is either too pricey, so people can't afford it, or people within the market to which I'm trying to sell don't have the buying capacity to be able to buy my product. That's all it is. Mm-hmm. It's the market force against the production cycle.
And so how do we balance it? We have to balance it somehow. I mean, well, he needs his...
The way to balance it is you need to remove all those things that is taking money out of people's pockets. There should be no reason why we should pay so much tax on petrol because it is making things too expensive. There's no reason why we should have so much VAT on just about everything you can think of, including using your ATM in your bank. It doesn't make any sense. And it is time that we looked at all those things again, reviewed them, and cut off the taxes in order for people to retain some money in their pockets so they can have more purchasing power. If we don't do that and do that soon, we will never see this economy reviving, and it will not go any further than where we are today. We will all be stagnant until such time as there's a huge injection of cash coming in, and we're going to be able to carry things forward. I'm afraid that is the answer.
No, the finance minister is saying that it's very strategic. All these levies on fuel and everything is very strategic, and the medium term is, Christmas. That's going to come too very early for us.
I'm sorry, but I've heard it so many times. I've heard that refrain. The medium-term prospects are good, and we are heading for a bonanza coming soon. We've been hearing it for 7 years, and it hasn't come yet. So why should I believe all that and expect that now that we're in the final year of an election year, things are going to pick up? I'm sorry, I don't believe it, and I don't think anybody in this country at this particular point in time actually believes that what the finance minister is saying is going to come to reality.
Hold on for me, Sydney. I have Edward Carriway in the studio, obviously Deputy General Secretary for a union. So I just want to find out, how's confidence like amongst the unions?
Well, it depends on people hopes.
I say that because, Sydney was saying, look, I've heard this so many times. Now I've lost hope, even though they've tax this, they put levies here, and they're saying, oh, the medium term looks good. I'm wondering, you know, on the ground, are people thinking, well, maybe this time things are better?
Well, I think that it varies. Some people have hope, even among our own people, about the future of the economy. I can remember last year or so, I was on this program, and you asked me a very difficult question, which I said, do I believe in the president that they'll bring the budgets and then the power will go? And I said, why won't I believe him? Because I don't have an alternative before the period that he says it will be done. We have gone through a difficult period. We have reached that point. Today, even though Dumsor is not gone, certainly we are comfortable for now. We only hope that we don't degenerate into the past and so on. It takes a long time. People have had some disappointments here and there, but certainly people also still have hope. And it is only when we have hope that, of course, we can begin to have confidence and then work hard to bring back the economy. As a union leader, we have to also give our people hope and give our employers hope. And then also look at the things that we can jointly do together to reduce the stress on businesses. And then how we can together also bring force to bear on government to change certain policies or for policy reforms that could also give a relief to them. My own understanding is that once we have run a long haul of difficulties to this time, it will take quite some time for us to even get to reduce the effect of the long haul of the Dumsor and all those things that it has had on the economy. It will not immediately deliver benefits that we'll just forget. But over a period, if we persist on keeping our forward march, certainly it will lead to a reduction in the constraints that face all of us or the challenges that face all of us. But you see, again, you just look at it, sometimes you also, our whole society is rotten. It's rotten because I was just watching and then this Galamsey and the rest, you know, the effect is not only about the Galamsey, but it's just about the fact that we are destroying the whole agricultural system in this country. We are destroying the water bodies. We are doing this. What we are doing is that come the next 5 years, 10 years, whoever is even managing this country, you will not have water. You see? So these are things that, and people are simply saying we will not stop. You know, attitude, we just need to change our attitude. There are certain things we can do on our own without necessarily being prompted to do, because we all know that it's no good.
Let me bring Sydney. Sydney, I mean, we are just so indisciplined. There's nothing one can do. Have I still got Sydney?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, Sydney. I mean, you know, Edward is bringing out some point about indiscipline. And you look at Galamsey, how destroying waters, just deviating. But generally, you know, people just become too indisciplined, and it's going down to affect everything that we do.
Yes, the discipline is an issue, because if we don't obey the laws of the land and we don't meet our obligations to the state in terms of our taxes and all the other social obligations we have, the tendency always is for smaller units and other units to get away and do whatever they want, and therefore those beneficiaries from particularly all the procedures that have been put in place certainly do not get those beneficiaries. So it is a big problem. And yes, I agree, we need to get a little bit more discipline in the system. The logic of the matter is, and the common sense of it is that if you say something is illegal, then Galamsey by definition is illegal mining. Once you call it illegal mining, it shouldn't exist. You cannot condone something and keep on saying it's illegal, and yet you allow it to continue and continue being perpetuated. Once it is a provoke him to the point where he becomes a trawler fisherman? How does he take his one canoe, grow it into 10 canoes, and eventually grow it into a fishing vessel, which makes him substantial enough profit so he can look after his family and take care of the kids as they grow up into future education? Now, this is the kind of way that we need to think about where we are taking the small medium enterprises and not expect them to stay where they are forever. And it is this mentality that because they are classified as an SME, they will forever be an SME. SMEs have to grow and become larger enterprises.
And Sydney, how is that going to happen with our level of free market? And I've said this 1,000 times. I got to a traffic light and I saw inflatable penguins. Somebody's literally changed dollars and bought inflatable penguins and was selling them at the traffic light. I mean, with this level of free market, how are SMEs going to survive?
Well, there's a market for inflatable penguins. And when I was a little boy, an inflatable doll was one of our best toys. We used to have a magnet at the base, and you would fit it on a table, and you would keep bashing away at it, and it never fell over. It was a source of joy. I have no problem with that because we don't make such things here. What we don't make and what we cannot substitute, we should have every right to enforce. But those things that we can make, and the other time we spoke about this, if I can make orange juice, if I can make tomato juice, if I can make watermelon juice, pineapple juice, lime juice, if I can make all those things, they should not have an importable status on my shelves in the country. We have to ensure that the local producer can produce enough of that to be able to fill the shelves and make it all available. We are at that point now in Ghana where, subject to the DUPSOC being over, we can do these things because packaging is now available and we are also able to produce enough of these raw materials to be able to make a viable enterprise. And it's time to explore all of that and make it come to fruition. The agricultural policy has to change. We need to look at the way we are actually farming and the way we are actually encouraging people to continue to grow their farms and to develop new technology and new innovative programs to be able to get their produce to the marketplace. We're not doing enough of that, and that is the problem that we have to fight now.
Thank you very much for that contribution, Sydney. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let me catch up with some of your messages on WhatsApp, which is 0560 800 000. 0560 800 000. That's a long one, and it says, growth is established through population increase and increase in the standards of living. The higher exportation, white-collar jobs has been a prime havoc that caused the growth of this country to lose its focus. This is Harry from Odumasi Kropo. Harry comes in again and says, secondly, tax and levies help countries develop. Ghana's tax system needs reassessment since a lot of Ghanaians profligate their sweat capital on taxes. Also, sometimes some of the taxes look fragile and quick to give amnesty on them. On issues concerning limited liability taxes, I think taxing the individual directors not taking incomes but bearing the title directorship is unfair taxation. We must revisit our tax system again and once again cleanse them. He comes in again and says, thirdly, businesses are suffering today because we fail as succeeded governments to tackle energy survival plans. This I refer to the year 2001 to 2008. It's bad, and this must tell and serve as a caveat for the acceptance and approval of National Development Plan, would serve a very significant panacea to reduce self-government policies rather than instigate on continuity and all on board. This is Harry in Odumasi Krobo. I hope, Harry, there's no Dumso in Odumasi Krobo. This one says, Eve in Gambaga. From Monday to Friday last week, we've had power continuously for 2 days cumulatively and from Friday night to Sunday evening, it was completely out. This is in Gambaga. Well, sorry, but down here we seem to be enjoying more than you guys.
Yes.
You guys. I'm going to take a break, and then when we come back, we have Dr. Bokbin to join the conversation, and then basically find out, what you and I should do to turn this country around to see the Ghana that we all dream of. So go. Well, thank you very much for staying, and we are looking at Ghana's microeconomy. And all throughout this year, I'm trying to find out a day, maybe every Thursday, we just pick an aspect of the economy and just talk about it. And we'll try and bring it down just, to what's happening on the street rather than all the graphs and indices, because sometimes they don't actually match, what's happening in real life. But I just need, us to start talking solutions so that we go, because I think the frustration of every Ghanaian is that you see the potential. You know the potential. You see other countries who have far less than us, but yet far ahead of us, and then you just know that with one or two policies in place, you could get there. But here we are, languishing in the back, cap in hand constantly. We must be frustrated. It's a justified frustration.
Yeah, I think that we still have a very outmoded way of designing policies and implementing policies. Those who sit up there and design the policies think that they have got the authority to design the policies, and they design them irrespective of even the necessary consultations that they make with the people. Now, when it comes to implementation itself takes no account of peculiar circumstances. Look, for instance, how are you going to address Galamsey? It's not just to bring soldiers from Accra to go and then swoop the place, and then after that they go away. That is not a solution. It's not a solution. It's an emergency solution. A permanent solution does not go that way. A permanent solution has to do with the people themselves there, because they do all these things with the full glare of the authorities that are there. They are there to manage that. Give them the responsibility. Every district must be allowed to manage the Galamsey that is there. If you're not able to manage that, then you must quit. Being a public officer, being a police officer, being whoever is stationed at that place. They know. But you see,
could it be reasons to say, look, we are unemployed and we need to survive? But before you answer that, let me acknowledge Dr. Bokbin, who is a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana, and he knows about macroeconomy. Doctor, you're welcome.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Doctor, it's quite unfortunate that we brought you, because we don't need indices and graphs. We want street economics, but unfortunately we've come to academia. So we're going to plead with you to come to the street just to find out what's actually happening on the street, the reality, the cost of inputs, and how much outputs you can make out of it. And indeed, what can we do to grow the microeconomy, because it's such important, but that's what gives you and I a job to do. With the current situation, what can we do to grow it?
We can look at it from two levels. We can look at the macro level, where managers of the economy have control or have a role to play. We can also look at the micro level and what can be done at that level also. But I think that it's admissible to some extent that the economy is going through some challenges. To put things right, something will have to give up. And at this stage, is the micro level, the private sector, firms. So the focus with the IMF program has been to balance the books at the macro level. So we are looking at the physical side, we are looking at monetary side also taking shape. But all these things, to achieve that, will mean that it would impose some cost on the growth drivers of the economy. And when we talk about the growth drivers of the economy, we're actually talking about the producers of goods and services, the private sector. The reason we are saying so is that the SME sector represents the viable option and it's actually the backbone of the job-creating capacity of the economy. But as it stands now, I think that because of the physical consolidation process, we are making some progress, but we don't have enough wings to fly. And the fact that we don't have enough wings to fly actually sums out the challenges that the private sector or at the micro level they are going through. One way of looking at it is that when you have output as high as 14.4% in 2011, and the fact that output dipped to about 4.1% or so, or a little below that, actually sums out the challenges that the economy has been through in the last couple of years. And it hasn't been that.
No, was that, would you, in economic terms, was it too drastic?
Yeah, it's quite drastic. It's quite drastic. Yeah, it's quite drastic. And it has implications for job creation also. Really, the truth is that no company or firm is set up to create jobs. They are set up to make profit. When they see the need to make profit, then they hand over appointment letters to people to come and help them make that profit. But if the economy itself is contracting and businesses are not seeing the options to expand, then it means that, they are not going to employ people. Nobody loves labor just for the sake of it. But one can also admit that there are certain interventions in the economy, like the in terms of export, the bank that has been set up to actually help export. We are also talking about other interventions in the system. And overall, as the economy improves, or as we stabilize the economy or enter into the zone of economic stability, economic stability will mean that there is absence of wide swings in output. There is consistency, there is low inflation, unemployment is low, there is overall improvement in productivity and efficiency of the economy. But as we speak now, we don't have all of that actually.
Doc, okay, Doc, you see, with economic stability, and from time immemorial, we've heard that the economy is a Gordon-Gorgisberian economy, where you dig something out from the ground, and the quicker you send it out, the better it is. Interest rates are high, the loan terms are very short, we are not producing much, so every time you get a cocoa syndicated loan comes into town, stabilize the CD, we finish it, the CD goes up to 4.5. So this stability, where is it going to come from?
We are a long way to go. That's the truth. I admit and I side with government to some extent that we are making the right progress, but it's a bit slow. It's quite fragile. We are not there yet. So what is important is consistency. I can refer you to the Ghana Shared Growth and Development Agenda 2 from 2014 to 2017, predicated on economic diversification and transformation. Beautiful. The basis, the comparative advantage. But that alone does not transform an economy today. So you can't only talk about comparative advantage. We also talk about competitive advantage. We need that competitive advantage and enabling environment, especially for the growth drivers of the economy, the SME sector, to actually expand and grow. Then they can create jobs. Then more output to be generated. The government tax revenue would also go up. You understand? So I think what is important is that we are making some progress. We have to be able to build on that and situate those gains within broader institutional reforms, legal reforms. Part of it are underway, the public financial management bill and all of that are being considered to ensure that, yes, the necessary productivity enhancing reforms, backed by private sector investment, infrastructure investment, are guaranteed. You see, my brother, the reality on the ground today is that we have a high productive cost base as a country that is making the SME sector or the private sector uncompetitive. You mentioned high interest rates, high inflation, huge infrastructure deficits, all these things are actually restrictions on the growth drivers of the economy. Look, to be able to reduce the infrastructure deficit, Ghana needs $10 billion every year for the next 10 years. Where are we going to get it from? Certainly not from our tax revenue. Because if you look at the allocation function of government, there's very little allocated to capital expenditure. I can understand that we are looking at PPP and other forms of financing that. But really, there are tough decisions that we have to take going forward. And I'm very happy that the IMF program covers 2016, which is also an election year. If we are able to discipline ourselves and keep to our budget and preserve the fundamentals of the economy, even in this election, which will be, I believe, is a very competitive election, then I believe that Ghana will have a future. But beyond that, we have to be deliberate. A nation that cannot feed its people cannot think or talk about progress.
Doc,
we have to critically tackle agriculture, because that is where we have comparative advantage.
Doctor,
so Africa as a continent. Okay.
Quickly before you go, because I'm running out of time, most countries that have been where we are, they came together at some point in time and just decided, look, we love our country so much, and therefore we are making this sacrifice. Not necessarily just the whole country, Korea, Irish, the Irish, you know.
Germany. During their hyperinflation.
But we are still very, very divided. So how do we get to where we need to get with this division? Just 1 minute for us.
It won't be so difficult. Leadership. Lead by example. When government shows leadership, right, in terms of, I mean, you see, the more you hear about corruption, the more you hear about all these things, it says that people are not going to trade off consumption because they think that some people are not sacrificing. Leadership is very important because it's one critical way of uniting all of us, so that we all come to the common position that we have a common enemy. And this corruption and bribery thing is not NDC issue or NPP issue.
No.
It is Ghana's problem. Let's face it, and let's all of us make the necessary sacrifices. In our own small way, in our own big way, wherever we find ourselves, we are all taking actions and inactions that is affecting or holding back growth. We all have a role to play. We cannot also say that leadership, so let the leaders only do that. We must also follow and do the right things. So we should be asking each other, what is it that we all have to do to make sure that we make Ghana a better place?
Doc, thank you very much for that.
God bless you.
You're welcome. Let me catch one quick message before I go to my brothers and sisters. Now we are bedeviled with high interest rates. Almost all the microfinance companies are gone. Even rural banks are suffering because they can't mobilize cash. All these are indicators of bad economic governance. How can the table business survive? Mark from Navrongo. Come back to the studio. There's a certain amount of sacrifice that we all need to do. But we don't seem to be joined in together. You know, it's as if government is against that. Oh, he's taxing this, he is taxing that. So we are not in there together with him.
Yeah, certainly we are not a people with a common vision, a common purpose, and a common, commitment. That must be made clear. We are only a people within a certain, a common territory, but we don't have a common mind and a common objective. Indeed, leadership is critical, and we need a type of leadership that will be able to bring all of us together. We need a type of leadership that will make people own the policies that they are brought out. You know, how do we appreciate that things will be hard and that...
You see, what I like the fact that the president has called all ministers to stop schooling and get back to work. I like the fact that the chief of staff says no more first class travel, you fly business class and only 2 travels a year. But I think, you see, it's not loud enough. But these are things that if I'm at home and I'm hustling, I like to see that, oh, they are also, tightening their belt. But I don't think it's loud enough.
Yes, these are some of the things that actually will portray to the people that government is taking action on themselves. Because first, government itself must be disciplined. We sit here and watch them travel in first class and so on, and we think it is not necessary. We see that they engage in frugal expenditure. We think it is not necessary. Government must first discipline itself and then be able to ask the people to also discipline themselves. So what President is saying and doing is the right thing. But if he sustains it, for a time, certainly we will all buy into that. But for now, we may not see the need to do that, but that is the way to go.
So, well, folks, this conversation hasn't ended. We will, by all means, trying to get the producers so that maybe every Thursday, we just look at the economy and different parts of it, the education, the agric, the production, all these parts of the economy that's going to give us the Ghana that we've all been dreaming of. We keep saying we started with the Singapores, the Malaysians and everything, and we've gone so far. Sometimes people say, why are you comparing yourself to them? Well, we are because we started with them, so we should be able to compare ourselves. And as the conversation goes on, who knows, maybe one day we shall all come together as a united country. But thank you very much, Edward, and see you soon. And folks, as I said, tomorrow we'll be back to do this all over again. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you.